much cash do you have in your operating account right now? If your answer is, I don't know, or you've pulled something out of thin air, or you haven't even looked at it because you're afraid to, this episode is for you. So listen up. Most business owners have never been given like an actual target for their cash reserves. It's more just been like, can I pay my bills this week? Can I make payroll this month? That's basically the extent of where planning for cash flow has gone, but you need to plan to have reserves in the bank so that, yes, you can meet your obligations that you have this week or this month, but then if things take a turn for the worse for the business, you know that you've got a cushion there to say, "Okay, we've got this reserve in here, and no, I don't want to pull from it, but at least I have it here for when things like this happen." Hey, everybody, welcome back to Cash Flow Confidence. I'm Shelby Ashley, and I help business owners feel more confident about their cash flow. So, today I'm going to give you a real number to aim for when showing you how to calculate what you need to keep in reserve for your specific business, depending on what kind of business you run. So, the Federal Reserve found out that the average small business owner has about 4 months of cash reserve, which I think is fine for most small business owners. Like, if you are in, the 1 million to, I'd say, 10 million range, or I'd say 1 million to 5 million range, I think having 4 months of cash in the bank is healthy and fine. Here's why it matters is because the amount that you have sitting in reserves is kind of your decision-making currency, and what I mean is, when you have a strong cash reserve, that's when you can make strategic decisions and forward-thinking decisions and not just reactionary decisions. So you can invest in a new hire, you can take on a client that, maybe they'll be big when it comes to revenue, but their payment terms kinda suck compared to your other clients. You can do things like that to grow your business because you have the reserve sitting there as kind of a safety net. But a business that is slowly declining doesn't really show up on the P&L right away. It shows up in your cash reserve. So if you notice that your bank account is dwindling month after month and yet you still have profits on paper, that's a problem, and that's where I want you to listen up. So your reserves are what allow you to pay yourself consistently. The business owners that I do work with that pay themselves the most reliably are not the ones that have like the best margins or the highest revenue. They're the ones that consistently put cash away in the bank. You should be able to, at the end of the month, have cash left over that you put back in the bank such that your bank account is growing month after month. That's what consistent positive cash flow looks like. So, what is the target for your business? So, standard guidance that I use with my clients is about 3 to 6 months. So, I'm going to give you a little more nuance to that because 3 months for one business might be like massively over reserved, and 3 months for another business might be like way too small. So, how do you know if 3 months is good for you or not? Well, if your revenue is like retainer based and it's highly predictable, then 3 months of operating expenses for you is a solid target because you can see more revenue coming in. You know that month after month, whether you're on, a retainer or subscription kind of business, you know that more revenue is coming in month after month. The flip side to that is if your revenue is largely project based, so it's like one and done kind of deals, 3 months might be pretty low for you as far as a cash target. I might shoot for closer to 6 months because if your business is project based, you're having to constantly go out and get more revenue each month or whenever your projects end. And so having more months as a buffer is more safe for you because if there is certain periods of time where you don't have anything coming in or it's very dry for you, you've still got that cash reserve and you're like, okay, I'm good for, X more amount of months. If you are in a high growth phase where you are spending instead of bringing in more revenue, so you're bringing on more team members, you are scaling your delivery, then you might want to shoot for closer to a 6 months cash reserve because in a high growth state of your business, the unexpected happening is not a question of if, it's when. And what I mean by unexpected is you're growing, you're bringing on team members. Let's say, in order to attract the talent that your business requires, it might mean higher salaries than what you were thinking. Or let's say you're bringing on team members and, somebody doesn't work out and now you're having to work to replace them. In a growth phase, there's so many unknowns in business that I don't have to tell you about because you've already experienced it for yourself, that having more cash in the bank is going to feel a lot safer for you. So, how do you actually build that cash reserve in the bank? So, if you don't build a cash reserve overnight, obviously. What you need to do is calculate your monthly operating expenses. So, I mean, everything from payroll, your own payroll, everything that it takes to run the business. Know what that number is per month. And then I want you to times that by 3, 6, whatever month you feel is safe for you to have in the bank. And so, let's say your monthly operating expenses are like $20,000. If you wanted 3 months of expenses in the bank, then you'd want a bank account balance at about $60,000. And so then I want you've got that figure in the bank, say for you, that's $60,000 in the bank. Treat that as a line item. Just like you do your payroll or your rent or whatever, treat that as here is my reserve contribution. I need to put this money in the bank immediately and then don't touch it. I know with my bank, there's a way that I can like hide certain accounts, and that's what I do. When I put my reserve in its spot, I hide it so I can't see it so I don't feel like that money is just like sitting there taunting me to go out and do something with it, right? I want you to do the same for yourself. Treat it as a bill that's like non-negotiable. Put that money aside. That's how you're going to build it and have that discipline to put money back in the bank. And then I want you to protect it as though it isn't yours. Like, don't look at that money and think, oh, this is mine for me to spend. Look at it like it's somebody else's money. Like, oh, this needs to sit there. I can't touch it. And so I want you to walk away from this episode with an actual number and not like a range. So don't think, well, if I had about like uh, 40 to 50,000, that should be good for me, and I'll put whatever I can in the bank at the end of the month. Decide on a certain number that you want to see in the bank, and then decide on what amount you're gonna put back each month carefully in order to build that up. That's how you create the discipline to build a cash reserve. And so now I want you to actually look at what you have in your business savings or your reserve account and not your operating account and see how far you are from that number, because that gap is the homework that I want you to do, and knowing it is what separates business owners who are reactive from business owners who are very in control and feel very successful and, can sleep at night. You can't get good sleep when you don't have the cash in the bank, right? So here's your action item this week. I want you to calculate the reserve target that you have using the formula that I mentioned. Whether you have predictable monthly revenue, your reserve is going to be, you can allow yourself to have it a little bit lower. But if you have very, one off project kind of work, you need to have a little bit more in the bank to supplement for that. And so now you have a goal of what to have, then you need to come up with what can I absolutely non-negotiable put in my reserve account each month in order to build this thing up. All right, see you guys next week.